In a small provincial town, mired in sleepy routine, a story emerged that became an incredible testament to the existence of things that defy rational explanation. It was a tale about my grandmother and a peculiar man who clandestinely lived in our town, dabbling in dark magic. My grandmother, Martha, always seemed to me the kindest and most caring woman in the world. She lived in an old house on the outskirts of town, adorned with wrought iron grates and surrounded by dense forest. I spent every summer there, and each time I looked at that house, an inexplicable melancholy enveloped me. One day, on the very day when strange events began to unfold in the town, I learned about that peculiar man. His name was Edward, and he was known as a man delving into dark mysteries. His house, like my grandmother's, was closed off from prying eyes, and no one knew what went on behind its high walls. But then everything changed. Strange rumors spread throughout the town about loud screams emanating from Edward's house. People whispered about strange shadows enveloping his house in the dark of night, and about flickering lights dancing on his attic window. The town was filled with confusion and fear, and my grandmother, like everyone else, watched what was happening with anxiety in her heart. One night, as dark nights loomed over the town, Edward declared his final will. He stated that no one should approach his house under any circumstances. Not on cries, not on pleas. This statement instilled fear and raised many questions, but no one dared to defy his prohibition. That night was horrific. Terrifying screams echoed from Edward's house, penetrating every corner of the town. My grandmother told me how they sat in their house, listening to those screams, permeated with horror and desperation. The sleeping town came alive with anxious voices, but no one dared to come to aid. In the morning, as the first rays of sunlight illuminated the streets, the town rose to find out what had happened in Edward's house. Many gathered at his doors, filled with fear and curiosity. My grandmother was among them. They opened the door and entered the house, ready to confront something dreadful, but what they saw surpassed all their fears. The house was empty. On the bench in the sauna lay Edward's mutilated body, unrecognizable. His eyes protruded from their sockets, and his tongue and ears were severely stretched, as if his body had undergone inhuman tortures. The air was filled with the smell of death and unholy power, which lingered even after everyone left the place. My grandmother claimed that Edward had sold his soul to the devil, and his end was just the embodiment of that dreadful deal. She spoke of how demons punished him for his sins, and that now his soul was condemned to eternal torment in hell. But even after the town quieted down and time passed, the story of Edward's house continued to live on in the memory of its inhabitants. It became a warning that in this world there are forces better left untouched, forces better left at peace before it's too late.